The mercenary stood at the edge of the ancient grove, the air thick with the oppressive weight of Malakar's presence. At the center of the grove, atop a jagged stone altar, rested the Shard of Light, a crystalline relic glowing faintly, its light struggling against the suffocating darkness. The trees surrounding the grove were twisted and blackened, their branches clawing at the sky like the fingers of the damned. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint, rhythmic pulse of the Shard's light. Ilyas tightened his grip on his rifle, his eyes scanning the grove. This is it. Stay sharp. If Malakar's here, he's not going to let us take the Shard without a fight. Lyra adjusted the scope on her rifle, her voice low. I don't like this. It's too quiet. Where is he? Garrick hefted his machine gun, his jaw set. Probably waiting to ambush us. Classic villain move. Celine crouched low, her silenced submachine gun at the ready. Let's not give him the chance. We grab the Shard and get out. Thaddeus, his tablet now useless in the forest's oppressive energy, slung it over his shoulder and gripped his carbine. The Keeper said the forest would test us. This might be the final test. Stay focused. The group moved cautiously into the grove, their boots crunching on the brittle, blackened leaves that littered the ground. As they approached the altar, the whispers they had heard earlier grew louder, forming into words that echoed in their minds. You cannot win. The darkness will consume you. You are not worthy. Elias shook his head, trying to clear the voices. Ignore it. It's just the forest messing with us. But as they reached the altar, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The air grew colder, and a deep, guttural laugh reverberated through the grove. From the shadows emerged Malakar, his black armor gleaming with an otherworldly sheen. His horned helmet obscured his face, but his glowing red eyes burned with malice. In his hand, he held the dark blade from the Keeper's vision, its edge crackling with dark energy. Foolish mortals, Malakar sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. You think you can defy me? You think you can take the Shard of Light? You are nothing but pawns in a game you cannot comprehend. Elias raised his rifle, his voice steady. We're not here to play games, Malakar. Step aside, or we'll put you down. Malakar laughed again, the sound like nails on stone. Brave words. But let's see how brave you are when faced with the truth. He raised his blade, and the grove erupted into chaos. The ground split open, and shadowy figures began to claw their way out, twisted, nightmarish versions of the mercenaries themselves. Each one was a dark reflection, embodying their deepest fears and regrets. Lyra found herself face to face with a version of herself that had abandoned her comrades, leaving them to die. Garrick was confronted by a shadowy giant that mocked his failures to protect the innocent. Celine's double taunted her with the lives she had ruined in her past. Thaddeus was faced with a version of himself that had become consumed by his thirst for knowledge, sacrificing everything in its pursuit. Elias, however, was confronted by something far more personal, a vision of his younger self, standing amidst the ruins of a village he had failed to save. The boy's eyes were filled with accusation, and his voice was a whisper that cut deeper than any blade. You let them die. The mercenaries fought desperately, their weapons firing in bursts of light and sound. But the shadowy figures were relentless, their attacks fueled by the mercenaries' own doubts and fears. It was a battle not just of strength, but of will. As the fight raged on, Malakar watched from the shadows, his glowing eyes filled with amusement. You cannot win, he said, his voice echoing through the grove. The darkness is within you. It always has been. Thaddeus, his carbine blazing, shouted over the chaos. We can't win like this. The Shard, it's the only way. Elias, grappling with his own shadow, gritted his teeth. Then someone grab it. Celine, her movements swift and precise, broke away from her double and sprinted toward the altar. But as she reached for the shard, Malachar appeared in front of her, his blade swinging down in a deadly arc. She barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side as the blade struck the ground, sending a shockwave through the grove. "You cannot have it!" Malachar roared, his voice shaking the trees. Lyra, seeing Selene in trouble, took aim and fired. Her shot struck Malachar in the shoulder, causing him to stagger. Garrick seized the opportunity, charging forward with his machine gun roaring. The bullets tore into Malachar's armor, forcing him back. But as the mercenaries pressed their attack, Malachar's laughter filled the air. "You think you can defeat me? You are already mine." With a wave of his hand, the shadows surged forward, enveloping the mercenaries in a suffocating darkness. They struggled, their weapons firing blindly, but the shadows were everywhere, seeping into their minds, their souls. When the darkness finally receded, the mercenaries stood still, their weapons lowered. Their eyes, once filled with determination, now glowed faintly with a malevolent red light. Malachar stepped forward, his voice a low, satisfied purr. "Welcome, my new servants. The darkness within you has been awakened. You are mine now, and through you, the world will fall." The mercenaries turned as one, their movements unnaturally synchronized. They walked out of the grove, their minds no longer their own. The shard of light remained on the altar, its light flickering weakly as the forest grew darker around it. Malachar watched them go, his laughter echoing through the trees. The world will never see it coming, and when it does, it will be too late. As the mercenaries disappeared into the shadows, the forest fell silent once more. But the silence was not one of peace. It was the silence of a storm gathering on the horizon, a darkness waiting to be unleashed. And the mercenaries, once heroes, were now its harbingers.